lovely friends, it's Margaret, and I'm here to nerd out about The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. If you've been on BookTube anytime in the last, 2 months, you have heard about this book. You have seen this book. It has been hyped to the max since, last December. Everybody's raving about it. And so I, of course, had to get on the train and see what everyone was talking about. There were things that I found intriguing. There were a few things that I was a little worried about, and we'll get into that later. The Cruel Prince is about a girl named Jude. She is a human living in the land of fairy. When Jude was 7, she witnessed both of her parents being murdered in front of her by her mother's ex-husband, who happens to be a Lord of Fairy. He then took her and her 2 sisters to fairy and has been raising them as his own children ever since. Jude has grown up in fairy. She knows all the rules. Her whole thing is she wants to be powerful enough that none of the fae can hurt her. So they can't control her, they can't glamour her. She is attempting to become a knight of the fairy king's court in order to achieve that goal. She thinks that's her best chance at surviving in fairy. She really doesn't know the human world and has no desire to return to the human world. As she's trying to pursue that, she actually ends up getting made an offer by one of the sons of the king, who offers her protection if she is willing to work for him. She accepts because it's what she's been looking for, obviously, and then ends up getting drawn into this web of deception and lies that are the fae, because even though they can't lie, they can deceive. So I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely adored it. I was a little skeptical going into it, just knowing what I knew about the romance and being a little bit worried that it was going to be one of those, bad boy treats her badly and she's still, madly in love with him kind of things, or falls madly in love with him but that's not what happened. I put this down and I was like, how am I going to survive the year it takes for The Wicked King to come out? Because, oh my gosh, this was so good. If I had 2 words to describe this book, it would be dark and delightful. And this is my first Holly Black book, by the way. I haven't read any of her books before this. She just, sucks you in, and her writing is so just poetic. Even though she's talking about all of this dark stuff, she's giving you these gorgeous word pictures, because you're in the fairy realms, and so the fairy realms are equal parts beauty and danger, and so you really did get a sense of that in the way Jude described the world, in the way that Jude interacted with the world, in the world that you saw. The plot of this book was just so twisty. It just kept taking you on turn after turn after turn. Jude starts out with one goal, and then obviously something happens, and so she has to change and figure out how she's going to go from there, and then she has to go again. It's never, nothing in this book is easy for her. One of the observations that I saw, I don't remember who it was that pointed this out, but I definitely agree with them that it was really nice to have Jude be a character that isn't this bumbling heroine kind of making her way through fairyland and learning things the hard way. Jude already knows how to survive in fairy. That was a really, really refreshing concept. I really did like that concept. She's already badass at the beginning of the book, and her goal is just basically to be the biggest, baddest warrior she can. She's been training with a sword and a knife since she was a kid. Holly definitely gave you all of these different characters that had all these different facets, and you're continually finding new parts of them. I don't really want to go into any of them because I feel like I'm going to give away spoilers if I start talking about them, but you had Jude, and then you had her sister Taryn, who's her twin sister, and then her older sister Vivi. They all had their different reactions to fairy. Vivi remembers more of the human world because she was older when they were taken, so she wants to go back there. Taryn is kind of just you know what, I'm gonna go along with the fae, and I'm going to be who they want me to be. And Jude is screw it all, they're not gonna like me, I just want to make it so they can't hurt me. Even the bad guys, even the villains kind of have, again, they're all fae, so that I feel like as fae, they can get away with stuff that if it was a human character, I'd be like, honey, no. The romance, I feel like if it was not the exact situation that it was, I'd be like, oh my gosh, there are so many red flags here. That was my one hiccup, because I'd seen a couple of things online, so I knew who her actual romantic interest was going to end up being. I feel like the way that Holly kind of handled it, because obviously it's the first book, so the romance is not going to really be, it's barely a thing in this book, honestly. But the way she handled it was really, really well done. She did such a good job of working in, and I know that Holly Black is the queen of fairy, basically, from what I've heard. You could tell reading this book she knew her stuff. Like there were so many just little details that you're like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. There were like fukas and red caps and like just all kinds of different fairy creatures that I think most people don't know about and don't understand. So it was just really, really good. I am not being very articulate about this book. I'm sorry. I don't want to give away too much because I feel like there's a lot of spoilers. I can't say all that much about it without spoiling things. There's a twist at the end that I kind of saw coming. Again, we're not surprised that Margaret saw a twist coming because Margaret usually sees them. It was still done so well that up to the point that that twist actually happened, I was still like, is it? Is it not? It might. I don't know. I don't know this author. Okay, so those are just my general thoughts on the book and a little bit about what it's about. I hope this was helpful for those of you that are trying to decide if you want to read the book. I would say read it. Like I said, 5 out of 5 stars. I don't do that very often. Most of my books are 4 stars. If you have not read the book, you're going to want to hit the pause button in just a minute. But do make sure you come back and watch the rest of this video once you've read it and you understand what I'm talking about. For those of you that are piecing out now, you can always look me up on my social media. My Instagram and my Twitter are both the word nerd, and don't forget in nerd it's a 3 instead of the E. Those of you that have not read the book, have a wonderful day. Don't forget to come back like I said, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video or you found it helpful at all. Those of you that have read the book, settle in. Honestly, all I really want to talk about is how well, like, she won me over with the romance. Like, no one is surprised by the fact that Margaret is talking about the romance. So, Locke. Can we talk about Locke for a minute? Like, from the get-go, I'm like, he reminds, I'm feeling that feeling I felt in Frozen when Hans was introduced, and I'm like, I'm not sure about this guy. I don't know about him. There's something fishy. I mean, obviously you knew Kristoff was gonna happen as well. I kind of spoiled myself for who the real love interest was. Like, I saw a quote, and it wasn't named that it was Carden's quote, but you definitely knew that it was Carden just from the wording. Like, I was in the book enough to know it was Carden and not Locke. I feel like this romance would not work if it were in any other world except for Fairy. Does that make sense? Fairy is one of those worlds where if you have or show any weaknesses, you are just like trampled and people go after them. I think deep down he knew that if anybody knew he had interest in Jude, that was not going to work out. That was going to work out badly for her. So I feel like part of it was him trying to protect her a little bit, and part of it was the fact that, like, she's a human, and oh my gosh, like, I can't believe I like a human. This is really awkward. Like I said, like, I really like the fact that she still hates him at the end of the book, and they're still not at all friends, because I feel like that's a good place for them to grow from. Oh my gosh, I am such shipping trash when it comes to enemies to lovers. I don't understand why I like this so much. I mean, like, I'm also a huge, like, big into friends to lovers. But like enemies to lovers, it's just like, oh, my jam. It's so good. Basically any romance trope except for a love triangle, I am probably down with. Like the good romance tropes, not the like Harley keeps going back to the Joker because she's obsessed with him trope. I don't like those tropes. No offense if you like Harley and the Joker together. I mean, like, they are a really interesting couple. I just don't personally find them romantic. I find them interesting, not romantic. And I am very concerned by the number of teenagers that do find them romantic. But that's not what this is. I think that it ended with them in a really good place for them to be considering their relationship. Like, I knew, and I was not expecting, and nor did I want it to be all of a sudden, oh, lovey-dovey, they're in love kind of thing. I liked that it ended with them as bitter mortal enemies because she had screwed him over by making him king. The title of the second book was a huge spoiler. Like, I went into The Cruel Prince knowing. I was like, well, it's either going to be Dane or Carden is going to end up being king. So I kind of knew Dane was a bad guy, not a great guy. I mean, none of them are great guys. None of the fairy guys are great guys. I kind of knew that, but like, yeah. Like I said, I feel like if she had all of a sudden been in love with him, that would have been one thing, but now she's just starting to kind of feel like realize that she's attracted to him at least. And he knows that he's attracted to her. And I feel like that's a good place for them to start, and then slowly, as they have to work together to keep things from exploding, I feel like we're in a good place for them to work towards a healthy relationship. Like there's some stuff that can fly with me, like I'm okay with when people are not friends and when they're not in a relationship, that like you need to nip in the bud. You need to see a definite change in their behavior as they start going to a relationship. But we're not there yet. I feel like we're not going to be there until the very last book. I feel like this next book is going to be them butting heads the entire book, while also wrestling with this attraction that they have towards each other and slowly realizing that they kind of care about the other person. I feel like that's how we're gonna go. There'll probably be some hate makeouts. Definitely, I would put good money on the fact that there will probably be some hate makeouts, at the least. We're not gonna get into how Margaret feels about that one. I knew that Liriope was going to be influential to the plot. It was really good how she introduced her almost as like, here's Locke's tragic backstory. Then she found the acorn. I was like, this is important. There's something here. And then she was really good because you kind of forgot about it until she found it in her stepmother's boudoir, bedroom. I don't remember what it was, but she was in her stepmother's quarters. I loved the chapter headers. Hold on. I don't want to spoil anything, so I will go to the very, very beginning. Oh, look at that. There we go. Look at that, like, all of this. This is so, like, they're just so pretty. And then you've got, if I can turn the page, you got, like, you still got that with all the chapter headers. I kind of, and people are going to yell at me for saying this, but I kind of want to buy it just so I can color those in. I'll just take my Prismacolors and make it a full color book. I am that kind of person. I liked how even the June knew a lot about how to get by in Fairy. Like, there were still ways that they could one-up her. Like, it wasn't like, oh, she's this big bad, like, I don't want to say Mary Sue, because Mary Sue is not a thing. There were still ways for them to get to her, as you see very much with Valerian. A little awkward when she killed him. I was just like, this is not a good thing to have happened. But we all know that if Jude had not killed him, Cardan would have. Let's just be honest here. Cardan would have killed him. The thing with Locke and her sister was really annoying, and it really bugged me. It was interesting that the specific reason Dane wanted Jude to work for him was because she was human and she could lie. I liked the fact that Holly Black played into that. It's a very common thing with fairies, is that they cannot lie. Especially like the more traditional fairies, not like Tinkerbell kind of fairy in Peter Pan, but like the traditional, like, dark fae that you see in books like this. You see in Harry Dresden. You see in Julie Kagawa's Iron. The first book is the Iron King. I don't know what the rest of them are, but I liked that ended up being her kind of superpower, because she could lie and the fae couldn't. Oh my gosh, it was just so much fun when she would like lie to their face and they'd just be like, that's amazing, and also slightly terrifying. I loved that. That was so cool. I would love to know what you thought of the book. Did you agree with me on any of these things? Do you disagree with me on any of these things? As long as you disagree politely, I don't mind. I would love to talk about it. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, and you can also subscribe. I would be ever so happy if you did. If you would like to see more from me, you can always check me out on my blog. That is www.thewordnerd.com. And again, that is a 3 in nerd instead of an E. I talk about books and writing on my blog. You will see some of these bookish chats. You'll also see my monthly wrap-ups and a little bit about my writing process and where I am in that. Don't forget to check me out on Twitter and Instagram. Again, that is the word nerd with a 3 instead of an E. I would love to see you on there as well. That's it for now, my friends. I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye!